Today I'm going to be doing... Hi guys, my name is Nikki, aka the Dragon Queen, and today I'm here again with my little friend because I'm recording this immediately after my last video, and he's still being a pain in the butt. Today I'm going to be doing series that I have started that I do not plan to finish unless some almighty power of the spaghetti monster tells me to. So, please note as a warning or disclaimer, if you like this series, which I know a lot of people like, at least one of the series I'm going to mention, this is no shame on you or your reading taste. I just personally am not that into it, so I cannot force myself to read books if I don't like them. If I in the future decide, hey, okay, let me pick up the second book, then I'll do it. But for now, this is how I feel. So, the first series, which is probably going to be one of the most controversial, is the City of Glass and Bones. I personally do not like the Mortal Instruments series. I could not stand the first book. I did manage to finish it only because of the whole you have to read a 500-page book this year type bullshit I put myself under last year, I think it was. But I didn't like the characters. I could not feel anything from them, and I didn't want to know what was going to happen next. So I put it down and just have no interest in picking up any of the other books by her. The next one, which is probably not as well known, but a book that was recommended to me, is the Cat Who series. Now, this one was actually, I think, the fourth book in the series. Is it? Or the first book? Yeah, this is the fourth book in the series. I thought it was a really cute concept. It's about cats who are basically solving crimes, but it could have been... It's too much of a cozy mystery for me. I wasn't really a fan of that, and while I enjoyed the parts with the cats, I think it would have been way more fun if they were actually talking and actually solving the mysteries instead of just like coincidentally doing things. But that's just me. So I didn't really catch into it, and there's like 30 or 40 books in that series, and I didn't like it enough to keep going and buy the rest. The next one, I have actually read about 3 books in this series, and that is the Odd Thomas series. I've mentioned this book before and this series before. I'm not a fan of Odd. Like, I understand why the series is enjoyed, but I don't like him. I don't like the God help me aspect where God just makes things magically work type books. It defeats the purpose to me and the hardships of being. So I don't intend to read the rest of the series or listen to it. Next might be a little, not controversial, but kind of, and that is Ender's Game by Orson Scott Card. I have read book 1 and I loved it, and I read Speaker of the Dead, or Speaker for the Dead, and it was okay. And then when I got to Xenocide, I just couldn't do it anymore. I am not a political reader, and those books were becoming so political based, I wasn't enjoying it at all. So I put it down and I had no intention. Originally when I read Ender's Game, I had intended to read all 16 books in the series because it's 4 separate series, 4 books each following a different perspective. And I loved Ender's Game. I loved how that was written and how they decided to make it work. But after Ender's Game, it just got too political for me and I just wasn't enjoying it anymore. So, yeah. Up next is another sci-fi adult book, I should say, and that is the Foundation Trilogy by Isaac Asimov. I got about a third of the way through this, and I think it's the entire trilogy in one. My grandmother bought this for me, and I will always cherish this book because she bought it for me, and it's one of her favorite books. And maybe one day when I get older, I will finish the series, but it didn't really catch my interest as much as I was hoping it would. Granted, I'm not a huge sci-fi fan when it comes to reading. Now, in shows, love sci-fi. In books, not so big of a fan. Next is another big series lengthwise, and that is Terry Goodkind's Wizard First Rule. I have read this book 3 times, and I absolutely adore this book. Same thing as Ender's Game. If it was only based off this book, I would read all of the books in the series. However, on the 3rd book, it starts becoming very political, and I put it down about 3 ways in because it became political and very war-focused, and I just wasn't feeling it. I found out that after book 3, it gets a little bit better, but then it starts going downhill again, and I don't want to put myself through that. It's not worth it for me. I'll reread this book and just enjoy this book, but I don't intend to read the rest of the series. And there he goes. Now I have a bird on my head. Hi, bird. Hi, bird. Hello. And we're gonna finish this with the bird on my head. The last book, and probably the most controversial of them all other than the Mortal Instruments, is the Outlander series by Diana Gabaldon. I listened to this first book, and honestly, I did enjoy it, but it was too slow paced for me. It was like super slow paced, and thanks. And I couldn't get into it. It was so slow. And also I wasn't really fond of, I had to have it on 2 times speed in order just to get through it. And it was so long. Like, I understand that long books aren't necessarily a... Will you stop it? I understand that long books aren't necessarily a problem, but I get intimidated by them, so if I'm not like 5 stars all the way, oh my god, I loved it, I can't wait to dive into the next one, it's less likely for me to read it, which is why I also haven't read the Game of Thrones series. I should say that's another one that I'm never going to read, but I never started it, so I don't think it really counts as a series I'm not going to finish if I've never actually started it. But anyway, are there any series that I mentioned that you absolutely love? Please tell me down below. You won't convince me to read them, but I still love to chat about it, and I do know a lot about the Game of Thrones series and Ender's Game and all of these books, actually. I know a lot about them, I just have no interest in finishing the series. And if there's any books that I mentioned before in previous videos that I love that you just weren't a fan of, let me know that too. I love to know why. I had a friend at work who read the first book, or started to read the first book of the Dresden Files, and just couldn't stand it. While I didn't understand it, it is what it is. Anyway, like it if you like it, subscribe if you want to, and this is the Dragon Queen and Skittles, signing off.